Welcome back to Heart, episode number 117. In this episode, Mark and I speak with Kyle Luker, a dynamic manager known for his unparalleled knack for identifying talent and nurturing their careers. With a journey that spans small boutique agencies to bicoastal industry leaders, his inspiring path showcases his resilience and ability to innovate. Keep listening to hear a manager's perspective on the industry and to learn why it is always important to have someone who is advocating for your career. Before you listen, you've got to grab our Backstage Pass because it is packed with Kyle's top tips, insider advice, and additional resources that will give you a competitive edge. You can grab the Backstage Pass by going to podcastbackstagepass.com.
There are not too many people you meet who are not afraid to be themselves. From day one, when I saw you, it was like an instant admiration and, just because you're always you.
I mean, I hope so. I don't know who else I would be.
You know what I'm saying, Kyle.
Yeah.
So especially, and I'm not even talking about our industry. I'm just saying in life, it's always attractive when you really meet someone who's comfortable in their skin. And I also like how you find humor in everything.
I try to. In our business, there's way too much suffering and rejection. We have to find a laugh somewhere.
So because also we've had dealings where, I also consider you very highly resourceful. As a child, can you think of any stories? You have to have some where you're a very resourceful person.
Oh, all the time. I was that kid that I remember when I was in fifth grade, there was a school dance and I decided I wanted the theme to be the future. And I made my mom, we covered everything in foil. I hung things from the ceiling fans to make it look like it was futuristic stuff. I'm always looking to figure something out.
So, did you pursue acting?
I did. I mean, in high school I did acting, and then in college I was an actor, and I quickly realized it was not for me. Just the amount of nerve to walk out into a stage and do an audition was just painful. And I don't think I was very good at it either. In fact, I got an audition for myself for today for the other two. And I was like, there's no way I'm doing this. I love you guys for thinking of me, but I panicked. And I learned in college that I had I was a better advocate for my friends than they were for themselves. And that just felt like a better place for me.
Well, the other way of telling that story would be, your resourcefulness totally outweighed any other possibility. So it really shined through because Kyle, you're always thinking out of the box. How did you even find, I want to hear everything, but Gil Holland, how did you even find him?
So I found Gil because I was doing a contract for a client for Broadway who didn't have an agent. And there was another person in the show that didn't have an agent. I knew the manager, sort of. We'd met a few times. And so I got to know them through that. And then my first boss decided that she was going to leave the earth early.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about her, but now I remember. Go ahead, who she was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, her name was Terry Watley, and she was quite a treat. But so she basically had, she was in a coma, so she had to shut down her business, or I did. And I met with Gil and his partner, and they took me in, and I brought over as many clients as I could, and I tried to send clients I couldn't take. I tried to send them to other managers I was friends with. And then, Gil and I are still friends to this day. I mean, he's just a great guy and an incredible filmmaker. And, we still text all the time. I flew down to help support him in his gubernatorial candidacy. But yeah.
Well, he's a highly resourceful guy too. So the two of you together, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I love that. There's one story where Jen Mack, who's now at NBC, was doing a movie in North Carolina, and she was talking to this director, Erica Dunton, and she was like, Eric was like, I'm looking for a girl just like this. And Jen's like, call Kylie as the perfect girl. So we set it all up. The movie's going to happen. It's going to be great. And then the director calls me crying and says, we don't have the money anymore. And I was like, well, how much money are we talking about? And she told me, and I was like, can you just hold for a second? And I walked into Gil's office and I said, I need this amount of money. And he handed me a credit card and he's like, go make your movie.
Whoa.
And we did. And we took it to Slam Dance and we actually sold it. And it was great.
Unbelievable. Gil never had a management office before you, right?
No. And then he separated from his partner at the time. And then we started our own place, him and I, and Matt Parker and Carly Hugo.
But wait, so when you said he had a partner, and I know, and this is good for our audience to know, Gil Holland at one time was, when it came to independent feature films, he was the guy in New York City who would get the money. And, and if you were a filmmaker, you went to Gil to get your film made, and he figured out a way to get the money.
Yep. If he thought the script was good, he found a way to make it happen. And, but the one thing that was really amazing about Gil is that he would try to read absolutely everything that people sent him. And I'm like, there's just no way. I mean, I can't, I get probably 50 to 60 emails a day of actors pitching to me. I can't get through my regular emails and then read those as well. And Gil would be like, oh, I got an email from an actor. Can you take a look? I'm like, no, that's not how this works, Gil. You can't read everything. But he really is, he's a true advocate for filmmakers. He really is.
So Carl, he was making movies. You met him under the story that you then did he say to you, let's I'm going to start a management arm? Is that how it happened?
No, he had already partnered with someone else and then they brought me in. Okay. And then I didn't know anything about making independent film. So I learned a lot working there. One of the films I ended up casting, which was one of the most frightening things I've ever done, because, when people are calling you to get their clients in, I'm a yes person. I want to say yes to people. I want to make things happen, but you can't do that when you're a caster. You have to say no to some people. You might have to say that person's not right. And I really didn't like that part of the process. And the thing I hated even more was being in the room when the actors were auditioning. That made me so uncomfortable because I don't know what look to put on my face. I don't know if I should look pleased I don't know what to do. So I quickly learned that was not a road I wanted to go down ever. But I did learn a great deal. Yeah.
So I remember you at the group. Were you pretty much the the founding manager of the group?
It was just me. And then Matt and Carly and Gil were running the film production side. And then eventually Jill McGrath joined us. And then Matt and Carly ended up getting a deal at HBO. So they kind of went on their own. And then Gil had moved to down to Louisville. And I kind of kept going with Jill for a while. And then we just realized we weren't, compatible really. And I wanted to go to a bigger place just because I'd only worked at smaller boutique management companies for years. And I wanted to go work at a bicoastal place where I had the support of an LA office. And also, when you're at a bigger place, you have access to so much more information. I just got an offer for a client for a movie that no one knows about because it's brand new. So now I'm going to send it to my company and everyone in my company will know about this movie. But if you're just looking at breakdowns, you're not going to know about this movie. Do you know what I mean? So when we do that with everyone. Everyone shares that we offer everything that comes in, any scripts. So it's just really helpful. At other companies, I would spend, a portion of my day trying to track down a script. Now it's pretty much in my inbox if I need a script. So
when you said a portion of your day was tracking down the script, what did you do to track down a script when the opposite is happening?
Yeah, so of course you start with casting, and they tell you there's no script available, and then you start emailing all of your assistant friends at the bigger agencies saying, "Do you guys have the script?" And especially if say there's an offer to, Gisele Bundchen, you can Google who Giselle's agent is and email and say, "Hey, can you send me the script?" So, and that was a bad example. I just thought about her on the way here. Anyway. But yeah, and it's also too is like a lot of our clients write and also direct, and so to have access to an entire lit department where I can just be like, look, this client has a great pitch. Can you guys sit down with them and see where it can go if you think it can sell? So that's invaluable to me.
So Kyle, when you were talking about Matt and Carly, you just said, so they were managers and you just said, then they got this thing with HBO. How does that work at HBO?
Well,
Yeah.
no, they were producers. They were producers, and Matt had made Beast of the Southern Wild, and Carly had just made Higher Ground and something else. She's going to kill me if she listens to this. But they were like the hot young producers in New York, and they ended up getting a deal at HBO and making some really cool stuff. One really cool documentary called Suited about a company that makes suits just for trans people. And it went to Sundance, and so they've just been killing it. And so what's been great is that we no longer do we work together, but we still talk all the time. And if I ever need anything from them, they're always happy to help me. And when they see an actor they think is amazing, they send them my way. So it's just, we don't work together anymore, but we're still great friends.
Incredible.
So
Yeah.
because you wanted that bicoastal support and of a larger company, that's how you ended up at Industry?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to go somewhere that was bicoastal, but I wasn't really sure where, and I didn't know enough about the different companies to sort of make a decision. Luckily, a lot of my friends rallied together and said, "Where do you want to go?" and made calls for me. And I ended up having several options on the table, and I was about to make a decision when Bill Butler called me, and he had found out from someone else that I was looking, and he was like, "Why don't you come work at Industry?" And I was like, "I'm kind of already negotiating with someone else." And he goes, "Give me 5 minutes." And I said, "Okay, I'm out of respect. I mean, I worked with Bill when he was at Gersh for so long. So out of respect, I was like, I'll give him 5 minutes." And
Live or on the phone?
I went to his apartment. I was literally getting a haircut, and I got up and like went to his apartment. And he just within 5 minutes, he convinced me that this was the place for me to be. He was like, "You're going to have full support here." He's like, "You've known me forever, so you're not just jumping into something you don't know." And Michelle Cottrell was here, and I'd known Michelle socially for years. So it just felt like a really safe place. And one of the things I said when I came, and I said this to the LA partners as well, is like I said, I want to grow the New York office as much as possible. And Bill does too. And so we brought Sally Ware in. Sally had been an agent at Gersh for years. And then Jen Lieber came in. Jen Lieber had been an agent at UTA forever. And we just moved into this huge office. And it's all white because the decorator hasn't even started yet. But it's going to be amazing when it's done. And it's just great to work at a place where everyone supports each other, and like both coasts support each other. Like we know we're the cooler coast, but still.
Where's your location in the city?
We are on 25th and Broadway.
Oh, very nice.
Right on the park.
Yeah.
You're very close. You're very close to us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you guys are not far at all.
Unbelievable, Kyle. Because, I think coming in today too, like the stories you can, or the inspiration you can impart to actors who are just sitting at home waiting for something to happen. And as you know, that doesn't happen like that. You're the opposite. You've made everything for you happen.
I mean, I think I've been very, very lucky as well. I mean, and I've made so many friends in this business that are always willing to help me.
Look at that, though. You made friends in the business, and the way you make friends organically leads to work.
Yeah, I mean, so many times, and it's, I do think outside the box. So I love to figure out like who can help me and how can we get there that may not be the straightforward path. But yeah, I've been lucky that so many people have supported me, including you, Mark.
Well, Kyle, I still remember even the way you handled, we said one year, it was actually 2 years in a row, hey, we're going to do a Christmas party together, the group entertainment and one-on-one. And just sitting down with you and coming, you're like, okay, I was like, all right, I'm going to get the liquor sponsor. You're like, I'll get this person. And you're like, we'll have a PR person. I mean, it became so much bigger than just from like
that one. The one we had at the cutting room was pretty massive.
Yeah, the cutting room. And the cutting room
Yeah.
at that time was in its heyday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it was Chris Noth's place.
Yeah.
And we were doing a movie, so we got the actors that were the leads of the movie to come as a little part of like their wrap party, and we did have liquor sponsors. And I think it was a unique thing that we tried to do, which was like bring in the casting community and bring in the actors and let them mingle. And that worked for a lot of people. Some people didn't love that, but
Oh,
I
well,
think
of course,
overall,
yeah, he'll then that happens.
because some actors are like really aggressive, and sometimes it's like, this is a party, relax.
Yeah.
Like, you're still getting some FaceTime. But yeah, I used to love those parties.
Yeah, I was so proud of that party or those parties, and we got some feedback of, why didn't you make people wear name tags and what they do for a living? I'm like, no. So
Yeah, the casting directors would never have agreed
are
to
you
that.
kidding? And the filmmakers too. We had some impressive
Right.
filmmakers.
Oh
in that
yeah,
one.
we did.
Yeah. Anyway, so I could tell a lot by the way you you worked your magic where, when you believe in something, it becomes a game and you're like, okay, you're going to get this person. I'll get this. Next thing you know, we're at the cutting room with this. I think we had like 300 to 400 people show up. It was a lot.
We did. And I have to say, I had a great time at that party.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, it's Brian. I'm dropping in on an important announcement. What you need to know is you have more control over your career than you think. The thing standing between you and the career you want is your connections. And that's where One-on-One Next Level comes in. If you are not a member yet, you can apply to join at oneononenextlevel.com. Press pause and do that now. If you are already a member and you are ready to get back on track, we want to invite you to book a strategy session with us led by myself personally. We will help you prioritize which classes make the most sense given your career goals. You can find these under the Resource Hub in your account portal. We can't wait to hear your success story.
So, your story for, wherever you go, you just kind of like, it seems like you're not working. It seems like your social talents kind of like end up like a Pied Piper, bringing you a lot of people who just you then figure out a way to connect them, and you are doing work.
Yeah, I love to connect people. That's a huge part of the job is, it's not just getting auditions. It's about, talking about people to your clients and talking about your friends, about the clients that are up and coming, and talking to the clients about, their passions and what they want to be doing. And do they want to try to write something? Do they want to, direct something? Do they want to go do experimental theater under a bridge for a week? Whatever it is, we try to figure it out. I've had clients come to me with ideas, and I always say there are no bad ideas, but there are ideas that don't work out. So we always give it a go at first. I can't tell you how many like scripts we used to read that we would be like, should we make this? And eventually we're like, no. But it gets so close. And that's the same thing for actors. Like, they have to remember that like every step you make is a step closer. So every no is closer to a yes.
Wow.
So Kyle, on the way over here, I was listening to this podcast of this guy who was one of the founders of like hip hop music. And he was a guy who would go to Negril on 14th Street and just listen to hip hop on Sunday nights or whatever when it first was introduced. And he didn't know anything about music. He just loved it. So then he became this big producer. I think his last name is like Rubin. I don't know. Like, anyway, the main thing what he said was, which is so true with acting too. He said, back then it was like these guys actually, created, hip hop. They started it and they were rapping, and people at first thought it was a little odd, but there was an audience, and they went on to become, huge, reaching levels of huge celebrity, let's just say. But they were the ones who created it. And he said, so of course, right away after that, there were a lot of musicians who started to, want to copy it or make, like kind of like take what they did and just, put their mark on it. And he said, when someone does that, they achieve a certain amount of success, maybe, but it's never the kind of success that the person going into it who is just wanting to create and do actually succeeds with?
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting about, actors who are type A. Like they want to have a very specific plan. And I always say, if you want to make God laugh, make a plan. Because, I always tell, like, be prepared. You may have to make left turns, right turns. Like, it's good to have goals, but sometimes a plan, it has to be malleable. Otherwise, we're never going to get there.
Like a
And
jazz
no one,
musician.
yeah, kind of like that. And it's also like one of the other things that in my career I've noticed that sometimes actors who are friends with more famous actors will get caught in their own head about where they're going versus where their friend is going and how long they've been. Everyone's journey is different, like everyone's. And someone who has incredible amount of success right now, that your turn could be next. So I always tell actors, I'm like, you should always be happy for your friends who get jobs. Don't worry that they're not taking a job from you. That's not your job. That's their job. You'll get your job.
And he was talking about artists, how when you do your art and you do it the way that you want to do it and not be so influenced by what you think they want to see. And he was talking about musicians, but I was
Yeah.
thinking of you today in our talk, and it's so true with acting. There's so many actors who are trying to like do it in such a way, or whatever, if they're auditioning, for instance, maybe this is the way they want to see it, as opposed to just doing it from from here.
It's the number one mistake that people make when they're auditioning for series regular roles, is that you need to bring as much of yourself to that role as possible, because hopefully you'll be playing it for a long time. And the writers are going to need to get inspiration. If they can get inspiration from you to bring into the character, great. I'm not saying you're not acting. I'm just saying you need to bring that part of you into it. And I think actors sometimes get caught up in what is they want to see exactly.
So in today's world, how does an actor, catch you off guard to make you go like, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to look into this person and maybe even call, like meet with them. Like, what is it about them that makes you do that?
People ask this all the time, and I've said this before, and it's kind of lame, but I say, it's like shoe shopping. If you're out shopping for shoes, you're probably already wearing shoes. You don't really need shoes. But then you see a pair of shoes you just have to have. And then you have to have them. So what I say is that, like, I always ask myself, am I obsessed with this person? Do I think I can do something for them? Like, can I be additive? And lastly, do I think they're going to make money? And I'm not one of those people that's like, you got 6 months, make me money, or I'm moving on. It's not that at all. It's about, are we making progress? Like, are we getting better and better feedback? Like, that's the most important thing. Well, the money will come when it comes. But it's hard to say. I mean,
No, that's a good
think of
answer.
all of my. Sorry.
That's a good answer.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So how has the pandemic then affected you and, in your job? Like, has it affected it?
Well, I'll be honest. I was one of those people that thought, oh, we're going to go home for 2 weeks and we'll be back. And then that is not what happened. I am, as you mentioned, I'm an incredibly social person. But I could work from home, and my husband's a chef, so he couldn't. So we made an agreement that I would work from home and he would go to work, and we'd sort of mitigate our chances of getting it. Well, within a week, I had named all of our kitchen knives. I had befriended a squirrel in the backyard, and then started an Instagram that was in the New York Times.
For the Trader Joe's, right? Oh.
Yeah, my Trader Joe's line, UWF. Please follow. We still post.
So we're going to hear this story. What happened to make it to Trader Joe's?
So, Trader Joe's was still open, but they put the line, the line is normally inside all winding around, but they didn't want people in the store. So they were only letting like a handful of people in the store at a time. So the line went past my brownstone, and I was leave my window open. And these people were just at 8:00 in the morning on the phone talking. First of all, good for you. You have a friend that will take your call at 8:00 in the morning. Good for you. But this one girl one morning was screaming about how she was getting berries to make epic smoothies later into the phone. And I opened the window and I went, shut the fuck up. And my husband sat up and he goes, no, we don't do that. He goes, find a better way. So the next day, I hung a sign in the window that said, "Shut up, Stacy. No one cares that you're getting epic berries, smoothies for your epic, you get it." And a client of mine from LA, I had posted on my Instagram, a client from LA said, "You should keep doing them, but find someone else to write them because your penmanship is terrible." So I texted my downstairs neighbors, who we'd all become really close during COVID, because it was like, I'm going to the store. Who needs what? Like, we were taking turns, like, leaving the building. Because, at the time we were still washing our fruit and we didn't know what was going on. And so I texted her and she's like, "Oh, I'll do this. I'll write it for you because your penmanship is terrible." And we got a dry erase board, and then we started listening and writing stuff down. And then her husband is a record producer, but he is also an artist. So he started doing drawings on the sign, and we were literally working on them every night together and then hanging them out the window and like changing them every day. And then the New York Times called and said they wanted to interview us. We were like, okay. And they did. And then New York One called and interviewed us, and ABC News called. And it was like a whole thing. And then we had like over 20,000 followers. But then the line sort of disappeared because they started like letting them back inside. And then we kind of ran out of things to say. So then we sort of had to start making them up. And then I got bored with just writing them. So I started having actor friends come in and do like readings of them. I mean, we had so many fun people. Like Shoshana Bean did it, Jackie Burns, DeRossio. We had a ton of like cool chicks. Carrie Preston did it. And we were just having the best time doing it. And it was, that's how I got through COVID mostly. And a lot of people messaged us saying like, we look forward to this every day as we're stuck in our home. But the other thing was the actors were just like, what's happening? And in the beginning, we truly had no idea. Like, we just didn't know how it was going to work. And then as things started to progress, the production started picking up again. And, now the question is, actors are like, when am I going back into a room with a casting director? And some people are doing that now, but not everyone. And I would say mostly not everyone.
Right.
So, like, we're getting closer and closer to, like, but then, like, we had monkeypox. And then my office was nervous about coming back in because of monkeypox. So I think our plan is like we're all going to be back in the office as much as possible now. But it was a very strange time, COVID. And even now, you have to deal with all these COVID protocols on set. Who can visit the set? Getting people's like normal hair and makeup team is harder because they want the people that they've already used that are COVID certified or whatever. So I don't know, it hit us all pretty hard.
So when you'd have a client go into just the typical, I'm not going to mention a name, a casting director's room, and that you as a manager knowing that client was not only auditioning, but the casting director also got a sense of who they were, their personality. Do you feel like now, where so much of casting is turned into not that, from their computers, that the decisions are a little differently?
Absolutely. And also I think that certain actors really thrive in the room. When they come in, they're charming. Casting directors like see that, they get to know them a little bit, then they get to work with them a little bit. So if there's something that they're like, hey, let's do that one more time, but can you change this? So actors are missing out on that right now a lot. I mean, we're still getting a lot of like, we watch their tape, here are our notes, can they retape? So it's not like they're not watching, they are. But there is something of being in the room with someone and getting their energy and even feeling what they're responding to. Like, but I have noticed a shift in like certain clients are booking more off tape, and the clients maybe that booked more in the room are struggling more. So I really do hope that we get back to a place where actors can go back in a room, and I think most casting directors want to do that. So.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think most casting directors prefer to be in the room when, you would think?
Well, I think, it's, I mean, listen, I have a lot of friends that are casting directors. I've sat with them when they're watching tapes over and over and over and over again. It's just not the same thing as the actor coming in the room and you getting the vibe with them. A lot of casting directors like to read with the actor, sort of see how that feels. Like there's just, it's the same thing as meeting a person in person is totally different than meeting them over a virtual setting. And then a lot of people are doing like more virtual, like Zooms with producers and directors in a Zoom. So at least you're getting some initial feedback. But it's so hard for the actor to like, you're trying to look at the reader but the reader's on Zoom and it's just so confusing. So I just hope we can go back to the old way. I know not everyone's a fan of that, but I hope we do.
How about you for your own personal, like when you have a potential client and you want to meet with them and, last 2 years, were you able to, kind of gauge them the same way on Zoom or, you met outside at Central Park?
Like there's one client I signed, I didn't meet him in person until the premiere. No, that's not true. I didn't meet him in person for a while. I'd been working for him for a while. But I've had other like meetings over Zoom that like, it's just so hard to tell. And I also can't I'm wondering like, what do they think of me? Like, this is like a weird, I don't know where to look. Do I look at the camera? Do I look at the people I'm talking to? It's just, so Zooming has not been good for me. I mean, I will say the only good thing about Zoom was during COVID, like we Zoomed with everyone. Like we did a whole Thanksgiving over Zoom with my whole family when my husband cooked and like we ate all the food that they couldn't eat. Like, but still. I mean, 4 years ago, you never heard of Zoom.
Right. No, exactly.
Well, and also, Kyle, 4 years ago, let's just say you had a client in a studio feature. Most people would see that film at a movie theater.
Right.
And now most people are seeing that film on HBO or another source.
Yeah. Or if it's in the theater, it's there for 2 weeks and then it's on your TV. So, yeah. And like, I was one of those people that was like deathly afraid to go into movie theater. And like, even into like, Broadway was shut down, but like the day like that we sort of left the office was the day of the 6th opening. And I was going and then they canceled it the last minute. And I was like, oh, thank God. Cause I was like freaked out. I didn't want to miss it. But now, like, I'm going to see Parade tonight. Like, I'm not nervous to go into the theater. I've got all my shots and thingies, so we got to start living our lives again.
Yeah, and I will say the blessing of was we were able to get you and Allison doing a Zoom together side by side.
We had the best time doing that together. Like, because she comes to my house. We have a guest bedroom. We do it in there, and while we're in there, Ash makes us dinner. And then he brings us little snacks while it's just the perfect setup.
As they're teaching. And this is Allison Estrin for those of us listening. So
yeah, we have the best time together.
I'm always jealous. I always say like I should be invited to have some of that food.
He's a foodie.
since I'm setting up the class and doing everything.
I will invite you.
Great. Hey folks, Brian here. Mark and I often cringe when people call One-on-One Next Level a workshop studio because we are so much more than that. You and I both know that not all workshop studios are the same, and I can tell you with complete confidence that no other studio offers the same level of care or programming that we do, and we do so with pride. Here's just a few examples.
I'm Emily, and before One-on-One Next Level, I was in a super dark place in my career. I tried a lot of things to find representation, but nothing seemed to work, and I felt invisible. Then, almost as a Hail Mary, I signed up for a manager session. It was incredible, but it was also the thing to land me a manager. Since then, I booked a national commercial, I've gone on to create a thriving voiceover career, and signed with an agent, all through these classes and programs. One-on-One Next Level has been the single most important thing that's influenced my acting career and life in so many ways.
I'm Neil. In the last year, I booked 2 co-stars and 1 top-of-show guest star on major TV series. I also shot my first lead in a feature film. In fact, I've hit 20 big milestones thanks to the connections that I've made in classes at One-on-One Next Level. The key has been getting in front of casting directors. And that's why I love One-on-One Next Level. If you're not a member yet, what are you waiting for? Every actor deserves face time with the people in the business who can move your career forward. And One-on-One Next Level can help you do that.
Did you know One-on-One Next Level produces over 335 events and classes each month? Whether you join us in person or attend on Zoom, you can meet with A-list casting directors, filmmakers, TV showrunners, and executive producers, as well as agents and managers when you become a member. These days, it's harder and harder to get real face time with industry pros, but One-on-One Next Level makes it possible. To become a member, visit www.oneononenextlevel.com and click join. We can't wait to hear your success story.
I know Mark was really curious to see if one of your famous clients was signed from One on One.
Well, Alexi, did you see Alexi Gilmore one on one or no?
No, Alexi and I went to college together, but it's Jillian Alexi that you're thinking of.
That's it.
She was in my very first class with Henry Bartzell Bergstein.
That's right.
And Henry and I had made a decision to explain to the class that this is not a class to like get cast by Henry, and it's not a class to get signed by me. It's a class to like help you figure out where you need to go. So we had both decided that like I wasn't going to try to sign anybody. And then Jillian started acting, and I was like, okay, I changed my mind. I'm signing her. Yeah.
I needed those shoes.
And then she booked a series like, I don't know, like 6 months later. She was on the final season of Damages, like right away.
Wow.
Is she with you today?
We still work together, but she, during COVID, she moved back to Australia.
Wow.
So yeah, just because in the very beginning it was so hard, and like she had an opportunity to get back in, which is where her whole family is, and they had 2 babies, and they were like, Australia's safer, so they went there, and so she's been hanging out there, working there.
Very nice.
But yes, I did discover her at One on One.
Well, Mark was like, there's someone that he discovered. So
yeah.
Well, this is a good one for you, Kyle. Listen, I think it's been 4 or 5 years ago since a certain casting person that owned their own, let's just say, networking studio. Was putting it out there where then it became like this cause of the word pay to play and the negative connotations and burn them all down. By you being a teacher and doing it with Henry, even can you see the value? Because the first thing people go is, why should they take a class with like a casting director and a manager when they've gone to like Carnegie Mellon or they study with so and so? And I always have said that there is value there with when someone's in the industry, hearing their point of view and also working with material that is like today's real world material. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think we try to do a good job of balancing auditioning and audition technique with business. And the thing is, a lot of these schools, they don't teach you the business side of it. They don't tell you when is a good time to call your agent. They don't tell you, how many times should I call my agent before I panic? Or like, how often should my agent call me back? Or, is my manager doing a good job? I've only had 3 auditions in 2 years. And it's like, so those are the things that like we sort of both weigh in on. And the thing about Alice and I is we don't always agree. So it's nice to sort of hear 2 sides of things. Like Allison told me something I did not know. She said, when you're doing like a tape at home, you have to start on camera. Like you can't walk into the camera. She's like, even if you like walk, but like they have to see you, because if they see a blank screen, they think something went wrong and they might just go to the next one. Not necessarily casting, but producers. And I was like, really? And then I was talking to another friend of mine and she was like, oh yeah, totally. They have to start on camera. And as for our class, I was saying that like, one of the things that's great is that Alice and I don't agree on everything. So you get to hear 2 different viewpoints on something. There'll be a tape that I'll totally respond to, and Allison will be like, no. Or there'll be one that she's like, that was amazing, and I'll say, I didn't get it. So you're getting 2 different opinions. And then we talk about, team building. Like, so if you need to add another agent, or if it's time to add an attorney, or when those times are right. So we try to run the gamut of everything that we can teach you in a short amount of time. And it's not just audition technique. A lot of it is about the business and how to function within the business other than just auditioning.
And then for an actor that says, I have an agent, why in the world, I don't need a manager. Why does an actor need a manager?
Okay. I've been asked this many, many times over my 20 plus years in this business. And I cannot tell you how many agents I heard tell actors, you don't need a manager, you have nothing to manage. A lot of those agents are now, guess what? Managers. Here's the thing. The manager is looking out for the longevity of your career. Like they're looking out like the whole thing. The agent hopefully is doing the exact same thing. But the agents at an agency where like money has to be coming in at a certain time, so they're looking at numbers in a different way than we are. Also, I had a client with an agency. He had a really big recurring role in the show. He was getting paid a lot of money, but he got this really amazing play. And he was like, I want to do it. And the agency was like, okay, but you're going to lose this amount of money. And he was like, I'm fine with it. I want to do the play. And I was totally supportive of it. I was like, yeah, do the play. The play is awesome. And of course, somebody came to see the play and he got a huge movie out of it. So I think sometimes we're willing to sort of look outside the box. And also, we have far fewer clients. So, when a client calls me and says, I want to write a book, or I want to write this pilot, what can we do with it? Or I have this idea, do you know a writer you can put me in touch with to like do this thing? We have time to do that. And we have that's one of the reasons why I like being a manager is we get to do all sorts of different things. We do get to produce if we want. And, we don't go like agencies, there's like tons of meetings and stuff. And sometimes I feel like sometimes they're hindered by the fact that they have so many meetings. Like we only have 2 meetings a week. So it's just it's totally different.
Why do they have so many meetings? Like, what is it? To discuss the numbers, to discuss who they're dropping?
Well, there's like, there's your standard grid meeting. Then they have signing meetings where like they talk about who they're going to sign. They have drop meetings where they talk about who needs to be dropped. They have like synergy meetings where it's like, how can we be doing more to cross this? Like, and then there's a lot of the bigger companies that have even more synergy that they try to work with, like, the endorsement department, like meeting with knowing there's tons of people. Whereas here, there's just, there's only 5 of us in New York and like 20 of us in LA. And we share it. We do our staff meeting every week with everybody. And then we do we do a talent grid meeting one day, and then there's literary the next day. But it's not like I'm being dragged into a million meetings with potential clients because they want to put a bunch of people in a room. It's not like that. So like, I feel like we have more time on our hands, and we don't have 100 clients on our list. So,
well, this one, like kind of the theme of the podcast is where there's a will, there's a way, because, it's really a celebration of, one-on-one, next level, being around for 30 years, and it hasn't always been easy. And, we've had to take many risks at times and kind of push through. So we always like to ask our guests, like, can you, in your career, in your professional life, or maybe in your personal life, can you name like a kind of a risk that you took that helped you persevere against the odds and really paid off at the end? But, maybe,
while you were doing it, it didn't seem
idiotic.
like you were going to get anywhere.
I mean, yeah, I used to be a cruise director. I was making a lot of money and sailing around the world. And
which cruise line?
I worked for Holland America Line.
Okay.
And I did mostly the Baltic and the Mediterranean. And, I had a staff of like 50 something people, and I was 25 years old and making a ton of money.
Wow.
But I wanted to work in representation, and I just quit. And
Whoa.
I had an apartment in New York because that's where I lived. Came back to my apartment and I started going on Playbill looking for jobs. And I'll be honest, the first job I got was probably one of the worst I'd ever had in my life. And I thought, and I was being paid like in cash under the table, and I was working out of this woman's apartment where she was smoking, and it was truly, truly terrible. But at the same time, I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I was determined to, figure out how to do it. And sadly, the woman was really unwell, so I had to do a lot of the work myself. But it was like I was thrown into the deep end. I had a client that booked this huge recurring role on Third Watch, and the woman was in the hospital, so I had to do it myself. And I'd never done a deal before in my life. And luckily, Nadia Lubba was working with Kim and Beth on it. And Nadia and I had become friends. And she just said, okay, ask me for this. And I said, okay, can I have this? And she said, no, but you can have this. So she walked me through the whole deal. And I was like, this is great. Like, there are awesome people in this community who want to support each other. So I knew that, like, at that point that this was what was for me. And I've just been really lucky that way. Like, people have always stepped up to help me.
Wow.
That's great. That's excellent.
Yeah, so it's so inspiring too, and it kind of ties back to what you said initially about your advice for actors who are type A and have a plan. And sometimes it's just you gotta
Yeah.
dive in and be prepared to quit an amazing job and go on Playbill.
Yeah. And sometimes actors will like, oh, I might have to quit my job if I get this job. I'm like, well, you didn't come to New York to become a bartender. You came to New York to become an actor. So you have to take those opportunities. You'll get another bartending job.
And then to close this out, Kyle, you said earlier, you feel very lucky, but you also have made your luck happen.
I don't want to say that, but I will say I am lucky and I've had amazing support. So
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't done it yet, grab the Backstage Pass. You've got to get the Backstage Pass. There's behind the scenes footage. We've taken the biggest takeaways from the episode and written them down for you. There's also tools and resources to help move your career forward. It's the easiest way to turn this podcast into a tool for your career as opposed to something you just listen to as you're doing the dishes.